Hello everyone. Today I will be discussing about the intestinal nematode infection. This is a wide topic and I will be discussing only about a one type of nematode infection, that is the trichuriasis. So before that, let us understand what is a nematode. Nematode comes under the kingdom of Aschelnids. They are the round worms. So coming to the classification of the nematodes, they are classified based on their habitat. So those nematodes that live in the intestine are said to be the intestinal nematodes. So there are also other nematodes which are having other habitat, and they are a separate group. Today we will be only discussing about the intestinal nematode and only one type of intestinal nematode, that is the Trichuris trichiura, that is the common whipworm. So we have the large intestine and the small intestine. So we have two types of nematodes that have the large intestine as their habitat. That is the Trichuris trichiura and the Enterobius vermicularis. Or by their common name, we can say that is the whipworm and the pinworm are the nematodes that live in the large intestine. And now we have the small intestinal nematodes. That is the Ascaris lumbricoides, that is a common roundworm. It's their common name. Then Uncyclostoma duodenale, Necator americanus, Strongyloides stercoralis, Trichuria spiralis, and Capillaria philippinensis. So we will be already dealing with this Trichuris trichiura, that is a large intestinal nematode, which is called as a whipworm. So why they are called as whipworm? See, this is a whipworm. This is actually the shape. And see, this is what you call as a whip. Can you see the similarities? It's just like a thin portion of the whip. We have a thin hair-like structure for our whipworm. That is for our Trichuris trichiura. And like this hard portion, we have a end here. And coming to the disease caused by this organism, that is the trichuriasis. So the causative organism is our Trichuris trichiura. And coming to the name of this meaning of this name, that is hair like tail, but this is actually a misnomer because you can see here it is said that they are having a hair like tail, but actually this hair like portion is actually their anterior portion, their head. It's not their tail. The posterior thick portion is actually the tail. So then meaning of this name is actually a misnomer, but still we call uh, them as with this name. But you need to understand this thing, that is the anterior portion is actually the hair like and the posterior portion is the thick one. And a whipworm is their common name because of the similar appearance. And their habitat is the large intestine, and the lifespan is 5 to 10 years. And now coming to the morphology of this whipworm, just like we mentioned earlier, that is the anterior 3 by 5th portion is thin and the posterior 2 by 5th portion is thick and it is fleshy. And now when you compare the male and female whipworm, it is said that the females are longer than the male, and in order to differentiate them, we have a very what we have an identifying feature, that is when you consider the posterior cord. So for female it is just what it's a curved straight blunt portion, but in the case of male it is actually a ventrally called posterior end for the male. So this is how we differentiate them. And now we are coming to the egg. So the egg of this worm is actually a barrel-shaped egg, and it is actually brown in color. Why? Because see, they are living in the intestine, right? So within the intestine, they will be stained by the bile. So since they are stained by bile, they are brown in color. And they have a triple layered shell. It has a shell of 3 layers, and it has mucus plug at both the end. So this mucus plug is having an importance, that is through this mucus plug the embryo which is inside the this egg is hatching out through this mucus plug. Now coming to the life cycle of Trichuris trichiura. So the host of this organism is the man. They do not have any intermediate host. There is only one host, that is the human beings. And when you consider the infective form, that is the embryonated egg, which is having its larvae, that is rhabditiform larvae, is the infective form of this organism. And we can come to their life cycle. See, the adult worms live in the intestine, and the female will lay the egg, and the egg will be passed to the feces, and it will reach as a soil. There it will embryonate. It will what? It will undergo development, and again from the when this embryonated egg, which is ingested by the human being, it will enter into that person, and it will cause this infection. Let's see how it is. See this life cycle. So initially, let's start with the adult worm, which is living in the intestine of a human being. So this worm is going to lay egg, and this egg will be passed along with the feces of that person. And this feces, if it reaches a soil, what happens is that uh, due to the conditions which are provided in the soil, this egg is going to develop. That is within 3 to 4 weeks, the egg will develop, and inside the egg there will be the rhabditiform larvae which will be developed. And this embryonated egg is actually the infective form. And once this egg, which is having the infected larvae, is ingested by the human being, that is through contaminated food or water, this egg will be going to the intestine of this person, and within the small intestine, what happens is that the larvae will be liberated through the mucosal blocks, and then so the egg will be hatching in the small intestine, and from the small intestine this larvae will be going to the large intestine, that is to the cecum, and within the large intestine it will develop into an adult worm. Again the adult worm will lay egg, and this cycle will continues. So this is the life cycle. So see this. So this is how it is developing into an adult form, how this life cycle is completed. Now see this. Adult remain embedded in the cecal wall. That is, thin anterior end will be piercing the mucosa, and the thin posterior end will be projecting into the lumen. So I will see one image. So this is actually a colonoscopic image of a person who was infected by this organism. You can see within the cecum, this suppose if this is the large intestine cecum, or anywhere, any part of the large intestine. See, you can see the worms are hanging down, right? So while studying about the morphology, we had learned that it is having a very thin anterior portion, a hair-like anterior portion, and a thick posterior cord. So the hair-like anterior portion will be embedded in the mucosal wall. And what you see here, the hanging down portion is actually their thick posterior cord. So this is how they hang in the large intestine. And coming to the pathogenicity and clinical features of infections caused by them. So actually most of the people who are infected by this is asymptomatic. Only if the infection is so severe, only in such cases the person will start to show some symptoms. Suppose if the infection is so severe, the patient will be having anemia and malnutrition because see, the worms were embedded in the cecal mucosa, and these worms are going to ooze out the blood from that person, and thus the patient will start to develop anemia and there will be malnutrition. And see, acute appendicitis. So these worms will be in the intestine, right, large intestine. So once they are accumulated in the appendix, it causes appendiceal blockage, and this will lead to acute appendicitis. And in heavy infections, there will be diarrhea, there will be dysentery, abdominal pain, weight loss, and all. And in children, there will be rectal prolapse if the infection is so severe. Now, coming to the laboratory diagnosis. So, we have the stool test, the sigmoidoscopy, and the blood examination. And in the stool examination, the stool test, it is based on the egg count. If the number of eggs is less than 10, it is said to be a light infection. If it is more than 50, it is said to be a heavy infection. And in sigmoidoscopy, that is, earlier we have seen a picture, right? That was colonoscopy, this is sigmoidoscopy, the same. So in heavy infections, it shows white bodies of the worm hanging down from the inflamed mucosa. We have seen that. See, in this picture, you can see the white bodies which is hanging down. So that is what you see in the colonoscopy or the sigmoidoscopic image. And in blood examination, there will be an increase in eosinophilia in the early stages. Coming to the treatment, so usually for all the helminth infection, what we give is a albendazole tablets, mebendazole tablets, mebendazole 100 mg for 12 hourly 3 to 5 days, and albendazole 400 milligram a single dose. So this is the tablets given, and see, this is the tablet that is given in school in the deworming days. So this tablet will fight against the helminth infections. So that's all about the trichuriasis, which is caused by the Trichuris Trichiura. Thank you for watching. If you have any doubts, please comment below.